discussing this with us because like I said, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think it needs education towards empathy, and this is the main thing. And the question is how it starts.
Yes.
You said it has to start in the family, and I fully agree. And and then there are all these organizations who make grassroots movements and introduce empathy there. And but in the end, I think it needs the religious leaders to understand that it needs empathy and that they have to do something, that they have to become active in introducing empathy for their constituency, as you might say. They need to introduce empathy for their own members, and I think this is what I'm trying to do, to get them to do something.
You're doing great. You're doing a great job. We really appreciate that, and I think a lot of people in different parts of the world appreciate that. And we totally agree with you on the subject of having the leaders of the different religions to come together and basically and most importantly, firstly, to teach their own members about empathy, because that is, as I see it and believe it, the most important lesson you can learn from all the three Abrahamic religions. Show mercy on your fellow man, and the merciful will show most mercy on you. One of the sayings of Prophet Muhammad. And without having mercy on one another, and without showing that, without showing any empathy, well, everything will go in the opposite way. When I talk to my Swedish colleagues at work or even in universities on conferences and so on, I see how even if Sweden is a little country with only 10 million inhabitants, it still is a big part of the North European countries. And I see so much misconceptions and misinformation they have on not only Islam, but even Christianity. They are born but not practicing Christians because they have gotten away from the nice and good notions such as empathy, compassion, human integrity, and such. Everything has become something out of the materialistic philosophy and has gotten away from the good notions such as empathy and the words we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
When I speak to them, they mostly, when they ask me about the Prophet Muhammad's time or prophecy during the 23 years, many of them believe that there was an ongoing war since the Quran came to the world, and there was an ongoing war since the Bible came and since the Torah came. But that is not actually the fact. The fact of Prophet Muhammad being engaged in defense war has only been 3 months during the whole period of 23 years. So only when there has been shown empathy and solidarity and compassion and human integrity and respect and mutual respect, the world has flourished. The different cultures have flourished. The nations have had a great safety. People have been able to travel and go all around the globe without any fear of anything might happen to them. People had a compassion towards each other. People had true and sincere love to one another. And everybody are created freely to believe or not to believe, but most importantly, no one should exercise its own right on behalf of somebody else or on the back of somebody else. So empathy is the key, and I would like to thank you very, very much for coming over to our show and discussing these issues with us. I don't know if you have anything else you might like to add, or maybe Jerry would like to add, but on behalf of the show, we would like to thank you very, very much and deeply. We are deeply honored for having you around and telling us about your exercises and previous life. Thank you.
Yes, I thank you for having had me on your show. And the only thing I would like to add is the address of this, the internet address of this initiative, which is www.temple-project.de. So if anybody is interested in finding out more about this project, please go to this address. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Something else I want to add before we get done.
Sure, Jeff. Sure.
Is something from the interfaith movement.
Yes.
A piece that they have. There's a verse in the Quran, and I'm sure you two probably know it, but it's 49:13, Surah, and the chapter is the rooms. It says, "O mankind, we have created you all out of male and female. We have made you into nations and tribes so that you might come to know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of God is one who is most deeply conscious of him. Behold, God is all-knowing and all-aware." And the reason I want to say this is because with the interfaith movement, what is discussed here in the essay that I have before me, it says the question begs to ask why not create each of us to look and think exactly the same ways. And it says the answer to that question lies in the verse, so that we may come to know one another. We are not made differently so that we can despise each other, wage never-ending battles, and compete with each other. We were divided so that we would realize our inherent oneness. And it goes on to say this verse emphasizes how every culture, race, and religion, and every group of people on this planet exists for a reason. It implies how each of these groups has something positive to offer, and that we exist so we can all learn from each other.
Right, exactly.
And so, and that, empathy is the word there, totally, because in order to be able to accept one another and to listen to one another, from the heart, and to actually, to hear what people are saying, not just to listen to what they're saying, but to actually hear what they're saying, you have to have that empathy. And you also have to be willing to open yourself up to other understandings. So I very much applaud you, Dr. Goddfried, for what you're doing.
Me too.
And there are, if you wouldn't mind, you have one document that you sent to us that is the exercise in empathy regarding Al-Harim Al-Sharif, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And if you wouldn't mind, I would like to post this on our Building Bridges pages on Facebook.
Oh, great.
So read this.
Yes.
Because what this goes through, and we do still actually have a couple of minutes, unless you're in a hurry.
No.
Because what it says, the very first question right off the bat struck me so profoundly when we were talking before the show, that the Temple Mount has become an object of conflict. Could it, in your view, be turned into the token for peace? And that, I think, is a very beautiful question. And the way that you go into it, what would you say? Do Jews have right to the temple? What could be the right place to build it? Would you agree that Muslim sanctuaries are endangered by the Jewish claim to the Temple Mount? What would you suggest how to resolve these? And you say, since it is practically impossible to answer this question without hurting either Jews or Muslims, to follow empathetic procedure. And, what could be agreed on that empathy is the key element of the solution. And what you have in here right after that is that God asked Abraham to sacrifice what was dearest to him, his son. And if God would ask the Jews to sacrifice what is dearest to them, would they be willing to let go of their claim to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem? And could they consider leaving the entire place to the Muslims and to find some other appropriate place for building their temple? Or if God would ask the Muslims to sacrifice what is dearest to them, would they be willing to let go of their claim to Al-Haram Al-Sharif in Jerusalem? And could they consider leaving the entire place to the Jews, for example, by moving to the Dome of the Rock or to some other location? Now, this, the ability to make agreements like this, this is not going to. There's no way this can be made politically.
Right.
This is why it is so important that people who say religion has no place in politics, mainly where you hear that a lot of times is in America. I know it is said elsewhere around the world, but mainly here in America, there are really a lot of people that are so headstrong against any kind of religion in politics. And I believe without having any religion in politics, you can't deal with these kind of problems. We have these problems here in America too. We just don't see them a lot, and people don't discuss them a lot. But the importance of having the religious morality and integrity and, as you say, the empathy in politics is really hurting the world.
Right.
In all ways, it is. I would like to thank you once again, sir, for your cooperation with us and for us being here today. And I would like to close up with one quote regarding love and how it says about loving your enemy. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. This is from Matthew 5:43 and 44. And I think this is a great way of closing the show with wishing the best for everybody out there, for all our listeners, and try to use and be empathic to all the creatures around you. Do good and compete in doing good, because you will find good. Doing good will just get you to finding good. And bless everybody out there. Thank you very much, sir, and we were honored to have you here. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Everybody out there, and I thank you for having me on this show. Thank you.
Thank you,
It's been a real pleasure, Dr. Gottfried.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.